Like I said in the last video, seconds for you guys, weeks for me. So, week later, and we are now in and dry. So I've got the subframe. There's a few things I need to sort to that this morning. I've done some bits in the engine bay. The main one is I've got the wiper motor in. It's a bit dirty, but you can see that DSN plate and the DSN mounting bracket. Really happy with that. Just needs a bit of tightening. On order, I've got the bosses for the top. I'm going black windscreen wipers. I'm going to try and blacken out as much as possible on this. I've put the DSN plate on just for trial more than anything else. I've got a foam gasket underneath that, and I've put loads of the bungs in as well. I'm keeping that one. So what I'm going to try and do is tuck the wiring loom in. So for those of you who know, like this era van, the wiring loom comes through, then it spreads, and you've got a fuse box here, and then you've got the wiring that goes across for the rear of the car, and it goes back in through this bung. I want to get rid of that. I want to try, if I can, mount the fuse box just here, just behind. But we're going to have to see. I'll have to test fit the gauges to see if that will actually work. And then the wiring loom for the rear will go back here, go through, and then to the back of the car. And then the only thing that will come for this is through here. I'm going to try and get one of the Tudor washer bottles as well, and move it slightly to the right and have it here, and then that will sort the wipers. So really the only internal wiring of the original loom will be that, because as far as I'm aware, or if I remember, nothing really comes this side of the engine bay. So the fuse box for the Haltech will be inside as well. And then what I ideally want to do is if I can bring it through, so I'm going to go for a one of the custom front panels, so not the original panel. So it'll come through and then go to the engine bay. Anything that needs to go to the front, so for the wiring harness for the lights, that is, at the moment, again, light's not my friend, that's through there. So what I'm going to do is drill a hole in the inner wing. It's going to ride through and then basically tuck in under here and then come through, and I'll tuck it all under, so it'll be very, very minimalistic. I want to try and keep the wiring in this engine bay to an absolute bare minimum. That's the bonnet release cable. I did try originally to put it up here and down, but we ended up with something similar to that. I don't know why it's not changed. I've not done anything in terms of the positioning of it. It just, that's the way it falls. As I said, if I put it up here, it really doesn't like it and it looks a bit shit. So I've pushed it out the way for the time being, and I'll probably put a P-clip in here and one there just to neaten it up. But I put heat shrink around the tabs all the way at the top as well, so it makes it a bit neater and a little bit less aggressive on the wiring loom itself. So I've got to plan now, clean up the subframe, do a little bit more painting, and then we can get it. Okay, so that's the subframe at the moment, just on the jack. So the top mounts are just resting, and then what I've done is I've got M10 stainless fasteners at the front. Again, light's not my friend on this one. So I have, get rid of some of this tape. I've now got to do the rear mounts. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of fun, but overall happy with the way that went in. It was pretty painless. Don't seem to have scratched any paintwork, which is always a bonus. So yeah, we'll get on with that. And there she is, all in. Top mounts are just loose at the moment. I haven't put any torque on them at all, so they've literally just been dropped in with the washers. I'm waiting for the stainless washers at the moment, so I'm not going to do anything with that, but the lucky is once the hubs are on, it's going to push up anyway. The bottom mounts, or bottom rear mounts, are on. They're the DSN ones, and they went on quite smoothly. And the front, as I showed before, are the M10 stainless cap heads. So they're rubber mounts at the front. I've had to put a shim on that side because it was a little bit out. So it's solid at the rear and rubber at the front. So it should help a little bit with the vibration. I would recommend that. I genuinely wouldn't go poly on any of this. I know people have got their opinions, but that is genuinely on mine. You either go solid and rubber or solid completely, and don't even bother with poly. So the next job is to get it off the pallet. I'll get the rear wheels on, and I'm going to work out, after some head scratching, how to do that, because it is quite high. So hubs will go on next, and I'll sort out the shocks as well whilst I'm there. And then she will be on all four wheels. So once all four wheels are on, I can work out then where the arches are going to go and how much poke I'm going to get. So on the front especially, we know how much is on the rear, 'cause I've showed you in the previous episode, but the front I want to see how far we go out, and then I can measure it and work out whether the arches that I do want, which I'll reveal later, are actually the ones I'm going to go for. And then hopefully I can wheel the car out and give it a wash, because it's overdue. Right. Off the pallet. Okay. Move that out of the way. Will the pallet move? There we go. Slow but sure. Hopefully get rid of that cable at some point. Oh, I think I've got a splinter. Never a good start. Right. Move the board out of the way. Make some room. It should now, hopefully, come out. Oh, like a glove. Now, where the hell do you put a pallet of this size other than the garden? Right, time to get the hubs on. Okay, so the hubs are on, but I'm not putting the discs on yet because I'm going to paint the bell, and I want to do the top nuts because these tabs are terrible. So I'm going to take them off, put wash underneath it, and Loctite them, and then I've got to work out getting the steering rack and arm on. But CV's on. I've put a little bit of foam around it to protect it for the time being, and these aren't actually bolted up just yet, again because when the engine goes in I'm going to have to drop one of these so I can slide the CV in. So typically that'll do for the time being. It's just enough, and we've got good movement there, no crunching and no interference on the CV. Yes, I have put a cable tie on it. No, I don't care. Worst case scenario, if it does come off, then I'll put a proper metal tie on it. But happy with that. So let's get a wheel on and try it out, because I think there's a fair bit of poke on that, which is good because I wanted it the same as the rear anyway. So if it is further out than I ideally want, then the rear I'm going to put the spacers on, which I've got over here, and these are the original MPI spacers, so I will clean them up if needs be and put them on. So what are they, about 8mm, something like that? That'll be fine. Right, let's go and have a play. And there we go. So I'd like to set the high-lows a little bit. They are low, but I do want the van very, very low. Should have tubbed the arches, but there's about an inch of gap between top of the wheel, top of the tyre and the arch, so I'll test and adjust. But more importantly, for the first time ever, the wheels are on the front. Typically there is no load in the engine bay, so the high-lows are going to take a while to settle right down. Just what it is, but there's plenty to get on with in the meantime. I think the wiring loom's going to be next. But yeah, overall happy. I've put these foam just to sort those out, the track rod ends. Let's see if I've got them still here. So I've got loads of track rod ends floating around, and typically the thread on them is all broken. So these are the ones off Felix. They're M10s, but the M10 bolt doesn't go on, and I've tried threading them So I'm going to have to order 2 of those. To be honest with you, it's not going to hurt things just to order them. They're not that expensive. But the next one is to sort out the power cable, because that will be the one that goes to the starter motor, and we'll sort out the routing for that, and then just start building the rest of it up and painting the disc bells. Another thing to sort out is the brakes. So I'm not going to use that PDWA valve that usually sits there, because the turbo will come around here and it'll be in the way, so I'll have a think about that one, and I might have to upgrade the fuel line as well, but again, that's for another episode. So for the time being, guys, thanks very much for sticking with me. Thanks for coming along with this journey. Now we're back on 4 wheels and I get rid of the pallet, and I will see you in the next one.